guys, today's video we are going to be talking about a woman who, when it comes to kids and having her kids, she thought of having kids was a way for her to receive love, to be loved, but it never quite worked the other way around. And in fact, in her own words, having kids was easy. And through her actions, we see that they were also very easily replaceable. This is twisted, and we're going to get into what the heck happened with Diane Downs. Her background, her relationships, just her kids, everything. Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you're doing good. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed already and if you know watched a couple videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And let's get into this. So, to give some background, Diane Downs was born August 7th of 1955, and she grew up in Arizona. She had both of her parents in the household, her dad and her mom. And what we learn from Diane when we hear her speak is that her life, especially the way that she deals with men, is a direct result of childhood trauma. Now, I was a bit confused as to what the heck was so traumatic that happened to Diane Downs. So, let's see. What she claims is that growing up in her household, it was a very strict environment where you need to live by the book, live by certain rules. And mind you, she is an only child. So in her household, like many other, I would say, religious households, you are not to have kids before you marry. I mean, this one's basic for a lot of people that grew up in these conservative homes. Now, the thing that was wrong with her household in her eyes was that her dad, she couldn't stand her dad, and in a lot of ways, the way that she viewed her father made her have a deep hatred of men. She said that her father had a habit of over-lecturing, which she couldn't stand. She said that her dad seemed to have control over her mom. He was verbally or emotionally abusive, and she said that her dad took all of her mom's time and her mom spent no time with her. So in a lot of ways, she grew up completely alone. She said that her father was also a very strong disciplinarian, so she didn't seem to receive any warmth, quality time with her parents. It was just do as I say and don't get in the way kind of a childhood, it seems, in the way that Diane describes it. At school, she felt different from the other kids because of her disciplinarian father and his strict rules. She couldn't get the fashionable clothes that she wanted to feel like she could fit into her school. reason that you should never marry someone, and that is to escape your current situation. This was a recipe in Diane's case specifically for disaster, because she went into that marriage just using him and not actually seeing him as someone that she wanted to build a life with, and including that she had all of her trauma, whatever, with her father. It would just be projected onto Steve, or, influence that relationship. So anyways, they get married, and their relationship was not good. I believe they were together for about 7 years, and she couldn't stand it, and actually she didn't even say that there were any good years. She did say that in the beginning, Steve was a gentleman. He showed up on time. However, I find that hard to believe. I find much of what she says hard to believe, because she actually said that Steve put a empty gun to her head and pulled the trigger. And you want to know why? That was his marriage proposal, guys. That was his marriage proposal. Marry me. And she married him. That was her escape, if that actually happened, and she thought that she was escaping her parents' house to go marry a guy who put an empty gun to her head and pulled the trigger. That was her escape. Your parents couldn't have been that bad. So anyways, the two get married, and the first 3 years she said they were tolerable. She just had to tolerate him. But she got pregnant with their first daughter. Now she had, let me start this way. She got pregnant with her first daughter, Cheryl, the oldest baby. And after that, she got pregnant with her second daughter, Christy. Now, Christy was supposed to be a boy, apparently. Steve wanted a boy, and she thought that she was having a boy. It would have made Steve very happy, I guess, as a man or whatever, to have a son. And she described it like when she was in the hospital giving birth. I couldn't believe this. That when Christy was born, Steve was angry. Like, he looked at her like, how could you do this? Like, she could choose the sex of the baby. Like, he was angry at her. And he's like, well, it was supposed to be a boy. Like, what? Anyways, after this, and she said that he was really upset because apparently Steve found her to be very difficult, annoying, bothersome, and he just, I think the idea of having a girl, he didn't want someone like her, which is so twisted to me. If this is true, it's so twisted. And anyways, so the response to that birth and the fact that they had 2 kids now is that Steve didn't want any more kids. He was very, very clear about that. And Diane didn't necessarily have any objections, and he got a vasectomy. Now, normally in this time with the vasectomy, and I guess still today, I don't know how this works, but you are supposed to, I think after 10 weeks, just gonna go back with the doctor to a check to make sure that it was successful. And Steve did not do this check that was recommended to him, and one thing led to another, and what's her name? Every time I hear her name, what's her name? Oh my goodness, I just want to say Debbie Downer. Her name, but how could I forget who I'm talking about? Diane. Oh, Diane got pregnant again, and Steve was angry. I mean, there was, when you get pregnant, you're maybe a little bit nervous. I don't know, I've never been pregnant, but the last thing you want is for your husband to be angry at you. was livid, and she's like, listen, you were supposed to go and get that check up, and now here you are sitting here accusing me of cheating or going out, sleeping with somebody else and getting pregnant. Why don't you go to the doctor and make sure that that surgery that you got actually worked, because I can bet you 100% that it didn't work. I didn't cheat on anybody. So he goes and he gets this checkup, and the doctor's like, oops, yeah, it didn't work. let's fix you up. So he had another operation to just, seal the deal there. But it didn't end there. Even if she was pregnant, he didn't care. He wasn't gonna have another child. And he basically pushed her into getting an abortion. And she didn't want to at first, but I mean, she's in this marriage. This guy was just on her, wouldn't let up, pushing her to get an abortion, making it very clear that I don't want this baby. And she's like, what am I gonna do? So anyway, she goes and she gets an abortion. And mind you, apparently she was 6 months. What the heck? This caught me off guard. 6 months pregnant. She said that's a baby, okay? Pretty much a fully formed baby. Obviously, you still have 3 months to go, but she thought that in her mind, she's like, oh, it's just mucus. It's just some cells. I mean, come on, 6 months. How can you be like, it's just some mucus? Like, no. Girl, you're 3 months from giving birth. It's not just mucus. I hate that word, by the way. Yeah. And that's what she thought that it was. And apparently, my goodness, she got an abortion. And it didn't actually affect her. She didn't think anything of it really, because like I said, she didn't see it as a baby. So she went through with this abortion, and it didn't actually affect her in the beginning. And I think a couple of years had passed, about 2 years or so, and she was at some fair, and she happened to pass by this pro-life, what do they call that? Stand, I guess, where they were promoting, don't get an abortion, pro-life. And they were showing fetuses at the different stages, and when she saw a 6-month-old fetus, she was like, oh my goodness, it's not just mucus, it's a baby. It has feet, it has a face, it has hands, toenails, everything. That's a baby. That's what I got rid of. It horrified her. It shook her to her core. And apparently it changed her. I mean, she dealt with so much regret, which now I don't understand. She was saying that I couldn't believe that I unalived this baby. I didn't do it, but the doctor did. But how could I let it happen? And yeah, I just get disgusted when I think about this, hearing her say that, and what she actually did to her kids. Anyways, so she's like, I need to get pregnant again to replace that baby that I, took out. And so she tells her husband, reverse your vasectomy. I want to have another baby. And I'm like, what did you think his response is going to be when he was angry at the second baby not being a boy, and really, really not wanting you to have a third baby and pushed you into getting an abortion? What did you think he was gonna say? Okay, babe, I'll get my vasectomy reversed, we're gonna have another one. He wasn't having it, he wasn't gonna do it, he was so against it, he didn't want to hear a thing about it. And she was like, fine, I'm going to find a donor. I'm gonna find a donor. So she met this guy. I don't know where she met him. I forget where she met him, but she saw him somewhere. Maybe at work, I don't know. And she said, oh, he had the nicest features, a nice strong jaw, tall, strong, really looked so great. It was so bad, but like she was right. She got pregnant, and so she told her husband, I'm pregnant. And what did you think the husband's reaction is going to be? I mean, he got a second operation to ensure his vasectomy was working. Of course he cheated. He was pissed off at her, and he was on her back, and you know, she was like, oh, he's bothering me so much. He was so after me. Like, what did you expect your husband? Like, you went out and got pregnant with another guy. So anyways, he was basically telling her again, you need to get an abortion, and she wasn't gonna do it. Now, anyways, they still stayed together, even though he was pissed off at it. And when it was time for her to give birth, you know, he was there. He didn't seem very enthusiastic. I mean, they didn't have a good relationship anyway, and he wasn't excited about this at all. And anyway, she gave birth, and it turned out to be a boy. But what was so weird about it is that she was like, he was telling her that this baby needs to be a girl. If it's a girl, maybe I will let you stay in the house for a little bit longer and we'll figure out something. But if it's a boy, I'm kicking you both out on the curb. I'm getting rid of you both. And apparently he said that because the last time he got his hopes up for a boy, but his baby turned out to be a girl. And maybe it's tied to it being another man's child. That if that turned out to be a boy, what he wanted nothing to do with it. Something like this, so twisted, so toxic. Can you imagine? Literally, can you imagine? What the heck is wrong with these people? And poor babies from the start. So he's in the hospital. Turns out it's a boy. She looks at the baby, and she's like, oh no, what's he gonna do to me? What's he gonna do to the baby? I need to protect my kids. So apparently when Steve saw that this was a baby boy, he looked at Diane and was like, you're out of here. Like, I think I'm laughing a bit because it's so crazy. I can't imagine someone being angry at a mom for giving birth to a boy or a girl. Like, you didn't give me what I wanted. What? It's just wild. So anyways, they actually stayed together for a couple more years, and he kept just trying to prove, I think, that he wasn't like biased towards his kids, not Daniel, because it was pretty obvious that Daniel wasn't his. But anyways, obviously it didn't work out, and it was so crazy because Diane actually ended up moving, you know, her kids and her out of the house and away into a different state. They moved to Oregon, and she actually mentioned the kids don't need a dad. They don't need a dad. They just need their mom, which goes to show you what her personality is right there. No, they don't need that. A guy is only useful if he can do some things and support, you know, us in some way. But if he's not doing that, and if he's emotionally or mentally abusive, then he's not useful to anybody, not even the kids. Everything was about her. How apparently she says Steve treated her was towards children as well. Whether this is true or not, I don't fully know. However, this is where, you know, this is how she thought about him being useful. So she claimed that she just really wanted to get away from him because he was so mentally and emotionally abusive, and she said that it really hit the ceiling when after she moved and they had been separated for months, this guy would still come to her house, yell at her, freak out at her, like he was only 5. And it's not that you were with 10 people in 2 years, it's that you were also married. So anyways, yeah, they separated and got the divorce. And she met this guy named Nick at the post office. Now Nick was one of the 5 that they were married, that he was married, you know. But apparently he told Diane, like a lot of guys tell girls, that, oh yeah, we're getting separated, but whatever, he was married, okay? And Diane, you know, started this relationship with him, and she kept a diary, and she would always write, like, love notes and letters, talking about how much she loved Nick. The only problem with Nick is that Nick didn't want kids. I believe Nick himself had a vasectomy. He was okay, like, sleeping with her, hooking up with her, but he was not going to be a father to anybody's kids. And he didn't want kids himself. So this was a problem because Diane was head over heels in love with this man who, quite frankly, was very happy when he found out that she was leaving the state and moving away. Like, he didn't give two craps about Diane, but Diane loved him. And she believed that, well, she believed that when she moved to another state not too far away, that it would be the perfect opportunity for Steve to follow after her and leave his wife. But in the end, Steve decided that he wasn't going to leave his wife at all for her, and that he was going to stay with, you know, yeah, stay in his marriage. So here we have Diane being very in love with this man. And mind you, let's go back to the kids for a little bit, because the ex-husband Steve actually said that Diane, you know, she was the woman who loved the attention that she got when she was pregnant. You know how with pregnant women it's like, oh, you're so beautiful, you're glowing, you know, how far along are you? She loved the attention like any narcissist. But when she had those kids, maybe they were cute as babies, but she had no emotional attachment to them, and she treated them like trash. And that was according to her ex-husband. She treated those kids like trash. She was not a loving and a warm mother at all. So, anyways, the kids were a problem for her. And in order to, because this is the thing, they said this about narcissistic mothers, and I don't want to just label her as a narcissist. I think she is a psychopath. I think there's a difference here. Like, a psychopath is a step further than a narcissist. Like, a narcissist won't necessarily take your life, but a psychopath will, because they don't see you as someone, they don't really see you as anything valuable just to get rid of if they have to, I think. But the thing is that, yeah, she had to get rid of her kids. And what was I gonna say? There was one really creepy, messed up thing that she did. 5 days before the crime took place, she got a little statue of, I think it was like a horse, unicorn, something like this, golden, and engraved in this horse, it said the names of her 3 kids, Cheryl, Christy, and Danny. Mom loves you. And she wrote a date on it, and apparently this is the date that she attempted to take all of their lives. This was done, or she received it, or something like this, 5 days before this happened. 5 days. This was planned. She took them to the beach. It was like her way of saying goodbye, and that was her memory of them. Just pop it on the shelf, and I'll remember them later. But kids are easy to have. Remember, kids are easy to have, and these are just gonna be replaced. so let's go to the day before she leaves. So basically, when she's moving out of her home, and she's moving away to another state, and she's with Steve, and Steve's not coming with her. They were moving, and I heard this on a phone call between them, where Steve was like, I helped you pack up, or, I drove that car for a little bit before you left, and I saw in the back you had 2 guns. You had the 22, and you had like a rifle. And she's like, no, I gave those guns back to Steve. Remember, I took them from Steve. I gave them back a week before I left. And he's like, Diane, stop messing with me. You had those guns in the back, in the trunk. And she's like, no, it was a microwave. He was like, girl, there's a microwave there. And it was crazy because the way he was talking to her, you could tell that he wanted nothing to do with this lady. Mind you, this is at the time after the tragedy happened, right? And they're on a phone call, and the police are there listening. This is a recorded phone call, which Diane doesn't know at the time, but she knows to be careful about what she says and who she's talking to. But basically this, did I say Steve? Nick, sorry, she's on the phone with Nick, the guy that she was having the affair with. Nick, is basically trying to get some information out of her, and she just keeps pressing on this lie that those guns were not in the back of the car, and he clearly doesn't believe her. And she's like, you just forgot, or something like this, So anyways, she leaves the guns are in the back, and that's important because when this happened, apparently Diane was at home and she received a phone call from someone about her getting pictures to give to this guy, or pictures of this guy, something like this, that she was having another affair with. And it was at the night time, and she needed to drive to go get these pictures, whatever that story was. She puts her 3 kids in the back. I mean, who does this? She puts her 3 kids in the back of the car. And she's like, oh yeah, we went sightseeing to go on the way to get these things. And the kids and I, we always take the back roads. We always explore the back roads. Which, what the heck are you exploring at night? You can't see anything. You can't. What are you sightseeing? And the kids are sleeping, by the way, supposedly, like it's late at night. And anyways, going on this long back road, and she's like, oh, but on the way back home, there was another back road that we never took, and I wanted to go down that road. And so I went down that road, and there was this guy that was on the side of the road, and he was waving me down. Maybe like something had happened to his car. And this woman says that she pulled her car over for this man on the side of this dark road, this dark back road, got out of her car and said, do you need help with anything? Now let me just stop right there. What woman do you know with kids in the back of the car will go down a dark back road and, okay fine, you stop, that won't happen, but say you do. What the heck are you getting out of your car? Who does that? Got out of her car and says, you need help with something. she's right. She did get out of her car. She went to her trunk, pulled out that gun, went back to the front driver's seat, shot each of her kids. One was shot in the chest. Well, they were all shot in the chest, actually. Cheryl, her oldest daughter, she died. Christy, she was severely injured. Danny, severely injured. At some point, Christy, I think it was Christy. Yeah, I think it was Christy or Cheryl, tried to actually get out of the car, fell onto the ground, and Diane, this monster, reached over and shot her daughter again in the back. Goodness, I mean, this is unimaginable. Scary, scary, scary for these kids. I mean, your own mom, come on. Anyways, so she gets that kid back in the car, and she takes her sweet little time to find a towel that was already there. Oh, actually, so she got shot in the left arm and just happens to be right-handed. And it's crazy how the kids all got shot in the chest and the abdomen, but she gets just shot in the arm. A nice clean shot right in the middle. Oh, right there. Nice clean shot in the middle of her arm. And she takes the time to wrap the towel around her arm. And the thing that really got her here was that she was driving so slow, 5 to 7 miles per hour, that another car actually came up behind her, and he was pissed because he's like, I'm trying to get home. And he can't get over. There was no passing lane on this dark road, so he has to wait and drive behind her. She was driving really slow for about a good 10 minutes, 5 to 7 miles per hour. Come on, you know how slow that is. Yeah, that's no speed at all. That's nothing. That's nothing. And then she gets to the hospital, and when they get there, you know, Cheryl is gone. Apparently, she's like, they killed Cheryl. What? Because she was alive when we got there. We were all alive, and she was like, oh my goodness, I'm not lucky. I'm not the lucky one. You know, the kids are lucky. Because why did she say that they were lucky? She was like, if I would have gotten shot like they would have gotten shot, we would have all been dead. They're lucky. I'm not lucky. I couldn't even tie my shoe for a few months. My arm hurt so bad. She's giving herself away. She's giving herself away with her messed up antisocial, narcissistic, psychopathic personality. And yeah, Danny was paralyzed, and Christy, she couldn't speak. She had a stroke, and but she was alert. She knew what was going on, and the doctors, over a period of time, because it took some months, right? It took some months. We're talking 6-7 months here. Over a period of time, whenever Diane would go and visit her daughter Christy in particular, even though she couldn't speak, her heart monitor, her vital signs, they were off the charts. I mean, they were like going crazy whenever her mom walked in the room. But when her mom wasn't there, when she left to calm down, that gave a signal to the doctors that something happened to this child with their mom. Something is very, very wrong here. And Diane may not be as honest as we think that she is, but this went on for a little while. But Diane giving the story of this shaggy-haired man, you know, attacking the family. Everybody in the neighborhood, in the town, was so scared, because this was a town where everybody knew everybody. People were so nice to each other. Everybody felt safe. It was the kind of town where you hear, oh, this type of stuff doesn't happen here. Crimes don't happen here. It shook everybody to their core. And, you know, she went on TV on doing interviews, her hair, her makeup done. She was smiling. I'm going to show you a clip right here, actually, when she's talking about her daughter, and her seeing her daughter reaching out to her. I'm gonna show you this clip right here.
But at night, when I close my eyes, I can see Christy reaching her hand out to me while I'm driving. That haunts me the most.
smile. That's a monster. That gave me chills. That just gives everything away, doesn't it? You know what? Okay, let me just start here. So she would keep going and doing news, like interviews, and it's not that she was forced to do it. She wanted to do it. She's like, I have to prove my innocence instead of working with the cops to find this person who did this to your child, or your children, sorry. And there was one particular news broadcast that she went on, and she was doing a reenactment of what happened that night. She was laughing, she was giddy, she was joking.
I'm throwing the keys, okay? I'm throwing the keys. I go like that. I got in the car, jumped in, put the keys in. I just hit my cast. Started the car and left. The car door shut itself. Gosh.
And mind you, this was literally not even a full week after this incident happened. Her child was about to be buried, and her kid was having a stroke, hooked up to machines, and her other kid was paralyzed, and you're out her doing a funny little reenactment of what happened, and oh shoot, I hit my gas, that hurt really bad. And it's so sad that people like this exist. I think it's so sad. Any parent who has lost a child in any circumstance is tragic, and there is no possible way, okay, that you can talk about your children, one deceased, to others severely critically injured, and have a smile on your face. It's not gonna happen. There's not one dare, a single emotion. It's just not possible. There's a heaviness. Diane didn't have a single emotion towards her kids, and she went on the Oprah show. And when she went on the Oprah show, she wasn't there alone. She was with the crime writer, Anne, and oh, I forgot her last name. Very popular at the time, crime writer, amazing books. And Anne covered Diane's story, and she was saying what her personality is. She is a diagnosed narcissist. She's for herself. When you hear her speak, it's always I, me. My kids were lucky. I'm not. I this, I that. It's all about her. You would not even know what thing happened to her kids, the way that she talks. You wouldn't know. And Diane was trying to explain that everybody's born with a personality, and the way that I grew up and with my childhood trauma, it influences how you are as an adult. And I'm not the kind of person that even cries in front of my family. I've been through so many hard things that I'm kind of cold towards emotion or something, some crap like this. And just giving some excuse or reason why nobody has ever seen her look sad. And she's like, well, what's that gonna change if I look sad? Well, I mean, they're just gonna be like, oh, she's pretending. And it's like, who the hell cares? What are you real? So, sick woman. Diane went back to work. She just wanted to get back to work, which is so weird. I mean, you're dealing with all this stuff, and she wanted to get pregnant. And mind you, she knows how to get pregnant. And she saw this really attractive guy on her paper route because she worked for the post office and delivering papers and mail. She saw this really attractive guy, and what does she do? Go to his house and, hooks up with him, whatever, and gets pregnant. And it shocked everybody. It shocked her parents. It shocked everybody. Like, what are you doing? she said that it was you. And normally kids want to protect their parents because they love their parents. And she's like, you know what? My kid has been through, a lot through the past few months. She was constantly questioned and constantly saying you can't see your mother. And things like this. And just tell us that your mom did it. Basically like being coerced into giving this answer. And besides that, she was on so many drugs that are known to have side effects, where your memory is blurred and you don't remember certain things and whatever. And she was just giving excuse after excuse on why this kid would say something like this, but she was still denying her involvement in it. Even till this day, she has not admitted guilt, and it's been so many years. So anyways, long story short, this woman goes to prison. And when they brought her into prison, she was like fully pregnant. She was maybe about a good 5, 6, maybe 7 months along. She looked like she was ready to pop, to be honest. And she said, yeah, I got pregnant because I would never see my kids again. Cheryl, I would never see on earth again. The other 2 kids, I will never be able to have them, and it breaks my heart. I know that if I got pregnant and I'm alone in prison, that I have somebody that they can't take away from me, that I have somebody that I can talk to that's inside of me that loves me. How sick are you? Again, with the same cycle of what they can do for me. She's like, they can't take my baby away. I'm sure they can't, right? Because nobody knows who the father is. I mean, they'll just, I don't know, she's just so crazy. So she's never allowed to see her kids again, or even talk to them. She tried to write them, send them letters, doesn't know if she got them back, or if the kids got the letters or not. Not that matters, because what the heck. But she wanted to make sure that the kids would not be in her ex-husband's custody, because she's like, they're not safe with them either. So something or another happens and they actually end up getting adopted, and she's like, well, I know that for kids who were abused, which they were not abused, but the fact that they got shot, it was trauma, they're gonna really do their diligent work to make sure that they get put in safe homes. So she was like happy about that, but still wishing that she could have her kids back. And anyways, she has a prison cellmate that she's with, and this prison cellmate is telling her about her husband. Now don't tell Diane about your husband, because she's gonna want to go after him. And guess what? That's exactly what she did. Yep. Diane found a way to escape prison, guys. She found a way to escape prison. She got out, I don't know at what point of the day, climbed up over that barbed wire fence and got out of prison. And she claims that she was trying to go find the guy that did this to her kids, so that she could do really messed up things to him. So if that's true, why the hell did they find you at your prison mate's husband's house? Ooh, you know where he lives. He lives down the street, because she told you. And she was there for 10 days. There was a huge search for her and everything. They found her. She got sent back to prison, and in her interview, they were asking her, like, what were you thinking? And she's like, well, my prison cellmate told me that her and her husband were separated anyway, so he was alone. They hadn't been together in 5 years, so, oh goodness, I'm not even gonna say what's wrong with her, whatever. And she's been in prison ever since, to this day. I think she's in her 60s, if I'm correct. And her kids haven't been in touch with her. I believe she has that one baby that she did have before she went into prison. She was giving an interview where she was basically saying I think it's just too painful, too much. And she's fighting for her freedom, which I hope that day never comes. She has zero remorse, and just somebody who never deserved to have kids. And how sick is it for her to be like, oh, it was so easy to have kids, and they just take their life and replace them. Like, oh my god. Her ex-husband Steve was giving an interview, and he was saying how, and this was back in the day when this, happened, he was saying how he wishes that she would have gotten the death penalty, like, take her out of here. Yeah, she deserves that. Yeah. All of our lives would be better if she wasn't here to, that's his stance. I mean, he wanted justice for what happened to his kids. He wanted justice. Her dad believed her at first, and then when he started to notice things in her story not making sense, and the fact that she was shot so clean in her left arm, and she's right-handed, and that thing of why her arm, not her abdomen or her chest, like the other kids, why did they have fatal gunshot wounds in her? Then the dad started to believe that she was the one that actually committed this crime, and that changed their relationship. I'm just like, who the heck got her pregnant after finding out or having suspicion that she unalived her kids? What's up with the people? I don't get this. Anyways, guys, we are almost at an hour for this video. Camera's losing battery. I hope you enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. I have a couple cases that I really want to cover, and different things, and Christmassy stuff, and that I want to do. So there's more